And good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's podcast. I'm your host, Ninelle, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that has been talked about a lot, and I'm talking like for years. All right, so let's get started. Let's talk about global warming. Just a normal conversation, so we're all clear on the things that we continue to do to our planet. As I mentioned before, it's a topic that has been discussed over and over again, yet somehow we either consciously or subconsciously continue to trash the very place we live on. We know what the consequences are. Okay, I know we are all aware. We've seen it all over social media, the news, the papers, and basically everything you can think of. Yet, why just now are we more concerned than we were before? Only now, in 2019, are we just starting to get scared and trying to reverse the effects we've done. Like, I'm sure you all heard of the reusable stainless steel straws or the phrase, save the turtles. Well, turtles aren't the only beings that need saving. What about the hundreds of animals that swallow pieces of plastic that we dumped into our oceans to die off well before their normal life expectancy? In fact, by the time I finish this podcast, 1 truckload of plastic will be dumped into the ocean every minute. So you can easily do the math there. Did you know there is actually a place in our ocean that is dedicated to trash and plastic waste? Yeah, aren't humans great? Containing about 1.8 billion pieces of plastic. That amounts to around 80,000 tons, therefore making it 3 times the size of France. This is called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch Island. Yup, this is what we're doing. We, with our careless and lazy decision-making, created an entire island of garbage right in between Hawaii and California. Oh no, but that's not it. There are so many countries around the world with the highest rate of waste production, such as Kuwait. This small country produces over 2 million tons of solid waste each year. Think about us living in Canada, one of the biggest countries in the world, producing so much more waste. Canadians throw away over 3 million tons of plastic waste a year. Even my family alone, consisting of only 4 people and 1 4-pound little dog, we end up filling our garbage and recycling bags up to the brim every single day. And I'm talking about those big blue recycling bags too, that somehow get full within a day, without even having to leave the house. It's sickening to think that even our lakes are not safe enough to swim in because of all the toxic waste that the water is infected with. That it's impossible to even walk in our parks and walk barefoot on our beaches because it's just littered with trash. It's sad, but this is the world we created. Like, okay, if that wasn't bad enough, I remember when I was younger, I used to spit my gum out right onto the grass, pavement, or anywhere that I was walking, and did that with little to no thought whatsoever. But little did I know that birds don't know what gum is, and to them, they see it as food. And I know I'm not the only one who used to do this. Millions of people still do this, and worse. Even so much as throwing plastic wrappers on the ground, the poor, innocent, and hungry birds fill their stomachs with trash, with anything but food. This causes them to have lots of ingestion problems. This also applies to ocean animals as well. Whales, sharks, fish. It's a lot easier for them to ingest plastic bits into their stomachs, or even ingest fish that have plastic in them already. To animals, a lot of plastic found in the oceans are mistaken for food. For example, to sea turtles, those thin, clear plastic bags that are usually used to package produce, they mistake them for jellyfish. Or other animals eat rice-sized pieces of plastic that look fairly similar to the small ocean particles that they're usually used to eating. Alright, so now that I've refreshed your brains with what our impact is on the environment and what we know we're doing, are we a little too late? Well, yes and no. In the end, it's always better to do things sooner rather than later. But the rate that we're going at right now might have irreversible effects, which can also be called the tipping point. So props to my environmental teacher that I had last semester. But I'm not saying that we're doing absolutely nothing to help. As I mentioned before, there are now stainless steel straws developed to replace those one-time use plastic straws, which is a good start. For example, India's Prime Minister wants to eliminate all single-use plastic in the country by 2022, followed by an immediate ban. And I think that's so great because India is one of the many countries that produces a lot of waste. Or you have France, that banned the free distribution of thin, single-use plastic bags. You know, the ones you get for free at the grocery stores. Followed by a ban of thin green bags used for produce. What they're aiming for is to reduce around 5 billion plastic grocery bags and 12 million produce bags. And then you have Mexico, who prohibited retailers from distributing single-use, non-biodegradable plastic bags. But what about Canada, you ask? What is Canada really doing to combat plastic waste? Already, in lots of places like Montreal and Victoria have put forth a ban on plastic bags with less than a thickness of 50 microns. What Canada plans to do with this is to, well, similarly with France, is to reduce the billions of plastic bags being used in Canada each year. In fact, Justin Trudeau announced that Canada will be banning single-use plastics by 2021. It's not much, but it's definitely a step towards the right direction. So, with that being said, we still have a lot of grounds to cover in terms of what we can do as an entire community. And what I mean by that is everyone in the world to come together and help one another literally save ourselves from extinction. Not only is there plastic pollution, but there's air pollution too, and that's killing us as well. Everything that we do is not just harming the earth, the animals, and the environment, but it's literally killing us. And believe me, I know this has been said many, many times before, but scientists say we really only have around 10 to 15 years to try and reverse the damage we've done, or else, well, humans are going to die off and the earth can finally breathe again. But if we start now, there's still a chance of hope. I don't know about you, but I'm a very hopeful person, and I really do believe that if we keep our heads up and keep replacing plastic with better, more environment-safe alternatives, then we can actually have a chance for a hopeful future. I mean, we could really save ourselves from extinction, and here's a few tips on what we can do to help. So, my first tip is to either stop eating meat completely or at least try to reduce your consumption, because as you may or may not know already, the meat industry, specifically red meat, is responsible for 10 to 40 times as many greenhouse gas emissions as grain or vegetables. So this next tip should be obvious, but using a reusable water bottle or lunch boxes instead of those plastic water bottles and those single-use Ziploc bags. My next point is sort of similar to my last one, but using reusable shopping bags instead of plastic bags. They're super useful and you can use them for any purchases and use them as many times as you need. They're strong and durable and come in lots of different sizes. So you don't have to worry about making more than one trip to the car to bring your groceries home. This next tip should be pretty obvious as well, but purchasing one of those stainless steel straws, as I mentioned before, to replace plastic straws. Not only do you help save the sea turtles, but you slowly help save the rest of the ocean as well. And finally, recycle. This one is so important. Just be mindful of what belongs in the garbage, what you can recycle, and what belongs in the compost. If you don't have one of those compost bins or blue recycling bags, try to make a makeshift recycling system at home. You have 3 bins, one for garbage, one for compost, and the third one for recyclables. Because in the end, it's not the animals or the earth that needs saving. It's us. The world has flourished before the existence of humans, and it can flourish again. And that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for joining this morning's podcast. Like what you hear? We'll tune in for next week's podcast at 9 a.m. Eastern Time.